Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rocio Mejia, and this day I will talk about grammar and syntax. Okay, grammar and syntax, which are two very important terms in the linguistic foundations, because grammar deals with issues such as rules to structure and sentences. This includes scores, language mechanics, and so on. Likewise, we will talk about a series of topics that are relevant to now within the grammar. For example, the arguments and grammatical gender, among others. Also, in the topic of syntax, aspect that must be into account when you want to make an analysis of a sentence will be addressed. For example, topics such as syntactic analysis and superficial and deep structures. Grammar. But what is grammar? Okay, according to the book The Study of Language 6th edition, grammar is strict rules for combining words in a specific order to create phrases and sentences. Similarly, in English grammar, certain aspects can be appreciated just as part of a speech, which include verbs, which are words used to refer to various types of action. Also, prepositions, which refers to words used with nouns and phrases that provide information about time, places, and other connections, which are words used to refer to people, objects, creatures, places, qualities, among others. Also, another aspect is the clauses, whether independent clauses, dependent clauses, compound clauses, etc. The other aspect is punctuation, which includes semicolons, comma, etc. It's important to know where to place the punctuation so that you can send and transmit the correct message. Also, the mechanics of language. It's fundamental in English grammar. In that aspect, you can see the structure of sentences, order of word, and semantic. Okay, now we will talk about traditional grammar. This topic includes other subtopics such as the part of a speech, agreement, grammatical gender, and traditional analysis. Firstly, we will talk about the part of a speech. We say that some elements can be verbs, adverbs, subject, prepositions, adjective, and interrogations, and there are also pronouns and conjunctions. Now, to better understand, let's look at the example, okay, in the sentence. Yesterday, I ate a hamburger. The word yesterday is a preposition. I is a subject, it is a verb, and the word a is an article, and the hamburger is a noun. Okay? Okay, now we will talk about the agreement. But what is an agreement? Well, the agreement is now has other categories apart from the part of a sentence. These categories can be discussed in isolation, but their role in describing the structure of language becomes clearer when we consider them in terms of concordant, and some of these categories can be number, person, time, voice, and gender. Okay? And at this time, let's talk about grammatical gender. Grammatical gender is a classification of noun, male and female. And it's clear that the classification was not associated with sex. Grammatical gender is based on gender class, articles, and adjective according to the different ways of agreeing with the gender of noun. Now let's see the traditional analysis. Often in traditional grammar books, tables like the following are observed. Okay, this table. In order to analyze English verb, construct by analogy with the table of Latin grammar, for example. In this case, the box contains an analysis of the verb law. It's understandable that in the English language, the categories actually describe different forms of pronoun. Well, now let's see at the topic the prescriptive approach and the descriptive approach. And the prescriptive approach is based on the establishment of rules for the proper use of English. And the described approach was used to collect samples of the language that is of interest to later be able to describe the regular structures of the language. In addition, this approach is divided into constituent analysis and structural analysis. Sorry. And at the last topic of the grammar, let's see what order word means. Okay, and the order word, as its name indicates, refers to an order that words can be carried when writing an idea or sentence. For example, a word order can be subject plus verb plus object. However, it's not the only possible order. Okay, no, it's the only possible order. Okay, now let's see at the next topic in the chapter number 9 is syntax. But what is syntax? Well, syntax is the grammar, okay, structure or order of the elements in a language statement. In addition, syntax focuses on the formation of phrases and sentences from words. Now let's see a syntactic rule that is very important to know. Okay, the rule is our analysis must account for all the grammatical correct phrases and sentences, and only choose grammatical correct phrases and sentences in whatever language we are analyzing. It's very important to know this rule. Also, it's important to understand what the superficial structures and deep structures consist of. Okay, the superficial structures are the different syntactic forms that have individual sentences in English. For example, John was repairing. Sorry, sorry. John was repairing the window, and the other sentence can be the window was repaired by John. In this example, we can see one active sentence, and the other is passive sentence. In contrast, the deep structure is an abstract level of structural organizations in which all the elements determining structural interpretation are present. Okay? And the next topic is about syntactic analysis. When we do a syntactic analysis, we can use some conventional abbreviation for the parts of a speech. And examples are and is a noun, art is an article, of is an adjective, and be is a verb. We also use abbreviation for phrases such as and be is like noun phrase, and BP is verb phrase, among others. Now, in summary, the topics of grammar and syntax are very extensive, but this time we only focus on the most relevant topics. In grammar, it's essential to know about the parts of a sentence that in order to use them correctly, just as to knowing how to use the punctuation is relevant to be able to send the correct message. The topic of synthesis intent the same, which is to give to understand an idea in the best way. For example, when we talk about the superficial structures and the deep structures within these topics, we can identify a series of aspects that help us to express ourselves in a better way. Similarly, in a general way, it's important to learn about the grammatical rules and rules that exist within the topic of syntax. This was a great explanation of grammar syntax. Thank you very much for watching this video.